Sorry about that. I need to I needed to stop some music I was playing in the background. Um, I wanted to do a little video today for my community and for my clients. I have some online clients. This is for my community to know that I do spiritual work for on an entertainment basis. And I wanted to let my Reiki customers know that I had been through some different energies in my area over the last couple of days, and that I did do a Reiki session for the client box, so that everything should be hopefully working as well or feeling as good as it was before the incidents that happened. And let's see, I wanted to thank the clients that have come forth during the time of the incident. We say that sometimes, what is the word I'm looking for? Disruption. We're working with disruption these days. So sometimes disruption can be a good thing for business. So we have had some good, a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of upturn in some of the online clients, which happened over the last couple of days. And I'm hoping that continues for me. And I thank those clients for coming forth, and also for the people who are coming to me for Reiki of money. We're doing this for entertainment purposes, but we always like it if it works, right? So yeah, things have worked a little bit better for me over the last couple of days as far as my online business. And for my community, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, what happened in my front yard over the last couple of days. I live in a community that has street trees in it, and some people have taken down their street trees, and some street trees are still up. And my front yard, that I do a lot of the work in my front yard myself. I've been here for like 10 years. So I've been under the shade of those trees doing work in the yard for about 10 years. So I know those trees, and those trees know me. And we don't know for sure who planted them, but we had to trim them in about 10 years because I'm not used to trimming street trees. And we had our house next door turned from a rental into a homeowner. The homeowner is actually living next door now. So it was purchased, so it's no longer a rental. So I've been trying to make things a little bit nicer next door, just because it's nice to live next door to a homeowner, and we want to do nice stuff. And one of the things that I had wanted to do last year was to get those street trees trimmed. They had not been trimmed in 10 years that we had been here, and it looked like that they probably hadn't been trimmed for maybe 10 years or so before we moved in. So it could be 20, up to 20 or more years of growth that's been pretty much uncontrolled on the trees. And honestly, the trees were absolutely gorgeous and big and beautiful, and we had thought that it was somebody else's responsibility to take care of them. But eventually, they got a bunch of dead limbs on them, and something needed to be done. Now, trees in the forest, when they get dead limbs on them, the limbs just fall down, become part of that forest ecosystem, and it's a beautiful thing. Here, when we live in a community where there are trucks and cars and passengers in the cars and pedestrians, we have to think about whether those limbs are going to fall down and be a safety issue. So what we did was we had basically a tree surgeon to come in and look at what parts of the tree were still good and what parts of the tree need to be taken out. And what we discovered was that there was a lot of dead wood in those trees. So we wound up with a situation where we had 4 or 5 burly workmen in our front yard taking down the parts of the tree that weren't any good, taking down the rest of the tree so that it kind of matched the same height, and then hauling off that extra wood. And that was actually a lot of activity that happened yesterday and the day before, because these are 2 big street trees. And what I like to do, I live in a community where, I don't want to get too detailed into it, but we have a lot of people who do work with gardening and plants who happen to be of Mexican American ethnicity. I'm in California, and I'm not saying anything other than that. That just happens to be the case. We don't create the situation, we just live in it, and it's a matter of who's available, who's going to do the job right. And we hired a crew of people who were Mexican American, and a lot of loud Spanish was being spoken in our yard and on the street from these burly workmen over the last couple of days that it doesn't usually happen. Um, and a lot of people have come to me over the last 10 years or so as I've done work in my front yard. And, most people will say, hi, how are you doing? Stuff like that. But there's some who've come by who attempted to speak Spanish with me, assumed that I was a Spanish worker because I'm doing yard work. And I also feel that there's this idea, and it's partially well-founded, that the Mexican community, quote unquote, knows more about plants than anybody else because they work so much with them. And here, like I said, here in Southern California. And that's partially true, but we have to remember there are plants all over the world. And there are not Mexican American workers all over the world. So if we think globally, well, of course, there are other ethnicities and other peoples who know about plants, always have been. People all over the world cultivate and eat plants. It's a primary source of food for everybody. So it's quite unlikely that Mexican Americans are the ultimate global authority on plants. That said, the two trees in front were ash trees, and I would not have known what type of tree they were if this particular manager, arborist for this particular company had not told me that they were ash trees a few years back. And it didn't mean much to me at the time. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do. I've been trying to get back to work. Because I have British people in my family, I've been looking into the Harry Potter thing. I don't particularly read the Harry Potter books, but just the periphery of it, what plants are supposed to be sacred and this sort of thing has been kind of interesting. And so a few years back, when one of the ash trees dropped one of the limbs that had been dead, I actually found one that matched the specs, from what I understand, of a magic wand, and I actually made this ash magic wand. It's no big deal. It's just very plain. I sanded down a piece of ash wood from one of my trees several years ago. And so I do have, actually, despite of everything that got cut off of my ash tree over the last couple of days, I have a historic piece, an historic piece of ash wood from that tree that is actually potentially a magic wand, were it ever consecrated adequately. I think I did something with it. It may have been consecrated adequately. I think I've tried using it for a few things, but I'm no expert on magic wands by any means. And as I said, I've never read a Harry Potter book and never actually been to a Harry Potter movie. So it's just we happen to have ash trees. And I thought, well, they say when a limb drops naturally, it's a gift to you. And so I took one of the naturally dropped ones. So anybody who is of the opinion that what was there is gone and we don't have all that history anymore, well, it kind of looks like it because they're kind of stumpy right now. Well, I don't know if they're stumpy. They're 12 to 15 feet high, but not huge. And there's not a lot of growth on them right now. They've been trimmed back really, really strongly, but by somebody who knows the tree and cares about the tree. And so we're hoping that it grows back. And I do have a bit of history while I'm at it. Okay, so why did I preface this by talking about Mexican American and Mexican community? Well, several years back, University of, I believe it was New Mexico, came out with a 3-part course, actually 4-part course. They came up with an overall course, and it was so popular that they broke it down into 3 parts 1, 2, and 3, and kind of fleshed out each part so it was a little bit more. And this is all on Curanderismo, which is the Mexican art of healing. And some of the Mexican art of healing has to do with herbs. And believe it or not, none of those herbs that are listed are actually marijuana. They're everything else but marijuana. And one of the healing herbs that I found in this book, the professor is Eliseo Cheo Torres, and I hope I pronounced that properly. He teaches the Curanderismo courses at University of New Mexico, and I believe they have a summer program too. What I discovered in those 3 courses is that I'm not that good at traditional healing, which makes sense because I'm not Mexican American. So why would I be that good at it? But I passed. I mean, I passed with good grade. I'm not as good at the physical healing, which is a little bit frustrating because we all want to be able to heal people at home. We all have those little scrapes and cuts, and we want to be able to do well. I have 2 little dogs that I'd rather take care of their issues at home than run to the vet every time. I don't know about you, but I don't really feel like making an emergency in my day, spending money that I don't really have allocated if I can cure something at home with herbs. So unfortunately, I'm not that great at it, but I did pass the course. What I found out is that I am good at spiritual healing. I actually made distinction. I passed that class, and they gave a with distinction on the class. And the class was taught in English language, which was very nice for us. So it puts me in a really good position if I'm teaching, or not teaching, but if I'm working with Reiki or tarot cards or runes or other oracles, or, you know, just sending blessings or good intentions, or trying to just keep the vibes so that they're kind of positive around me, that I've got some backup in that. But in the Curanderismo, and I've got a little a little marker in this so I can show you this. Curanderismo lists the ash tree as being one of their medicinals. Believe it or not, those 2 ash trees are medicinal trees. And I want to read you the little passage about ash, which they call Fresno. And we have actually a city, it's a quite large city in California named Fresno. So that city, Fresno, is actually perhaps named after the ash tree. So I'm going to read this to you. It's called Fraxinus sp, whatever sp stands for is the Latin, the botanical name for this thing. I should mention that when I had a choice of biology or botany in junior college, I took the botany class, so I've always been kind of plant-minded. It has never had anything to do with pot. I'm sorry. If you're a marijuana smoker and you thought I was one of you, my apologies. I might even be allergic to the stuff. I don't use it, but I'll use a lot of other things that are legal if they work. Okay, so we're going to talk about ash tree, those ash trees in the front yard that I used to have that were so lush and beautiful, but we did have to trim out the dead wood. So we want them to come back and look beautiful, right? Okay, hopefully I do anyway. Okay, so ash is said to be a snake repellent, and this is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, so disclaimer here, I'm just reading from the book as a very short passage. So effective that some people, when venturing into snake-infested areas, carried boughs of it with them. Rumor may have grown as the result of mention in a 1597 book, that's a 16th century book, titled Gerard's Herbal, to wit, serpents dare not be so bold as to touch the morning and evening shadows of the ash tree. In any case, ash is said to be a remedy for snake bite, should carrying these boughs fail to ward the snakes away, and to use in this manner to make a strong tea from the leaves and drink it if you're bitten. So it's the leaves, actually, of the ash tree that supposedly make a tea. I would check and make sure that they are actually not poisonous before you do this. This is just for the record, traditional remedy. This tea is also supposedly a remedy for gout and rheumatism and can be taken to reduce fever. Ash is also said to have the ability to increase longevity, and when used for this purpose, it should be ingested each day. Ash is also rumored to be an aphrodisiac. So ash is a pretty darn special tree, even to the Mexican American community of Curanderismo. Well, are there any other cultures that respected the ash as an important tree? Well, interestingly enough, the Celtic people also did. Over in Ireland, and Celtic people were actually through England and France and a number of those areas as well. I'm part Celtic, and I should know more about my ethnicity than I do, but excuse me, my foot's falling asleep. I need to move my foot over and say hi to my puppy dog. This is my Wolfie. He decided to say hi to us. Say hi, Wolfie. This is my Halloween dog. He was born on Halloween 2002, and he's still with us. So, that's my good baby. He's a sweetie. That's Wolfie Wolfgang. He's named after Wolfgang Mozart. He's not a gang member. I'm from a musical family, so anybody who didn't realize there's a Wolfgang Puck, there's a Wolfgang, I think, Goethe, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was a composer who was made famous in the movie Amadeus. So he is named after Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And we call him Wolfie for short, but he has a fancy name too. Okay, so anyway, dear Wolfie, be my Wolfie. Okay, so anyway, this is a card that came actually as a freebie with the Orphalese program that I use very frequently with my online customers because it's quick, it saves time, and it seems to work very, very well for most of us, most of the time. It works well for me. Oh, we got another puppy dog showing up. Here's my new baby. Come on, come, come. Angelica, come, come, come. Here's Angelica. She is at least part Papillon, and she is from the Van Nuys shelter in Los Angeles, and she is a sweetie too. We love Angelica. She's our new girl. She's a sweet baby. Okay, so that's my new babies. Okay, ash tree. Ash tree, we're all hanging out here with the wand, and it's getting close to lunchtime, so that's probably why they showed up. Okay, ash tree. I don't know if this is an ash tree or not, but this is the freebie set of cards that came with my Orphalese program, which I purchased, actually. I have the professional version. It's called, and I will guarantee you, I do not know how to pronounce Irish because I've taken Irish 101 and 102, and one thing that is very strange about the pronunciation of Irish is nothing like it looks. So it's N-U-I-N. It could be Nguyen, it could be Nguyen, it could be Nung, I don't know. But anyway, it's the Nguyen, and I'm going to put this up there. They have a little code. There's their little code in the ancient Irish for the ancient Celtic for the tree. So it's a vertical line and 1, 2, 3, I have to say 4 or 5. 1, 2, I think there's 5 horizontal lines on one side. It depends on what side. I haven't learned the Ogham trees. They're the O-G-H-A-M. I do know that's pronounced Ogham. So it's not Ogham like it looks. It's Ogham. Keep an eye on Woofy. Okay, he's climbing up the stairs. He's getting a little older, but he still gets around. Okay, so anyway, that's a little code for the ash tree in the Celtic. If you didn't know that, you know that now. So the ash tree was very important to the Celts. This is how it looks. But that's the Irish Celtic word for the ash tree. Ash tree was one of the sacred trees of, supposedly, of the Celtic religion and Celtic people back in the day. And this is a very, very abbreviated little printout that comes with the freebie. And it tells me that the ash has always been regarded as a magical tree by the Celts. The axis mundi, whatever that is, that links the inner and outer worlds, the challenge is to realize that things are not always as they seem. And we hope that's true. When things look like they're a little bleak, that hopefully we'd have those buds and leaves coming out and bring us a little bit of relief and that things are okay after all. So ash tree is not only important to the Mexican Americans, it's also important to the Irish Celtic, and I am part Irish and part Celtic, which brings us to another book. I'm not that close to this book, but this is Herbal Cures from Ireland. So Irish also had Irish cures, and I only pulled down the books that had the ash in them. The Irish also considered the ash a medicinal, and I'm going to read this. It's a little longer, but we're going to read what the Irish had to say about ash. And they call it Fraxinus excelsior. The parts they used were also the leaves, and they used the bark too. So great was the respect of the ancient Teutons for the ash that they believed a giant ash tree supported the canopy of the heavens, which I can believe. They get pretty big and wide. Their spears had handles of ash, as did the spears of Homer's heroes of ancient Greece. The hurley is always made from the ash, whatever the hurley is, specially grown. It is the toughest and most elastic of all timbers in Europe and one of the warmest and quickest to burn, even when green, which is wonderful because I was given some firewood by our workers. So even when green, we got the dead wood for firewood, but apparently the green would work too. I'm not going to put that to the test. We've got a small stash of ash firewood now. Whoop, whoop. My hair keeps on getting in my eyes. I need to trim my hair, so excuse me. I need to trim my hair like I trimmed the trees. Anyway, maybe not that much. Okay, the ash has many medicinal applications, according to Irish herbalism. The bark stripped from the limbs in early spring. Don't strip the bark from my trees, please. But anyway, the ash stripped from the bark from the limbs in early spring was administered as a febrifuge. What's a febrifuge? The medical guy would know. A febrifuge before the discovery of quinine. Okay. It is still used as a remedy for intermittent fevers. It can be taken in powder form as a decoction, a cupful 3 times a day before meals. Ash leaves are more active dried than fresh. Well, isn't that convenient? You usually think you want to do your medicinal herbals fresh. These ones want to be dried, so you could hang on to them and use them in the wintertime. Very, very cool. All right, so here we go. They should be gathered from May to July. So we're not quite there yet. I'm making this the beginning, first day of March, so we're not quite there to gathering phase. Hopefully by May we see some leaves there to gather. Infuse or mildly decoct, which I think is a longer lasting infusion. I'm not sure. Infusions are usually longer than a tea, several hours rather than soaking for 5 minutes, if I remember correctly. But you can look this up and find out. Infuse or decoct. Adding a few leaves of mint for aroma. Nice. Mint's easy to grow. It does grow here in the desert. I'm in the desert of California. Okay, and they also talk about rheumatism and gout. So maybe it does work. They also say renal colic and gravel. I don't know what gravel is. It's maybe an Irish term for something. I think gravel is like dirt. Okay. Yay. 1 cupful should be taken every 3 hours to prevent further attack. Take 1 liter, which is 1 3/4 pints, thanks for the translation, a day for 15 days every 2 months. Okay. A mild infusion of ash leaves every morning is said to be a recipe for longevity. We've got 2 sources now that say that they're a source for longevity. The Irish and the Mexican Americans. Look how they get along. Isn't that nice? Okay, the seeds of the ash have strong diuretic properties and are most effective in cases of dropsy. I don't know what that is. I don't need to know. Just a medical person might know what that is. Let's see. Make a mild decoction using 1 liter. Again, they're translating 1 3/4 pints of water, boiled for 2 or 3 minutes, and sip it occasionally in the round of the day. Alternatively, take it in powder form, approximately 10 grams, 1/3 ounce a day. That's a lot. Mixed with honey or stirred into a drink. So my guess is if you need this stuff and if it works for you, you gather a whole lot of those leaves from, what is it, May until July. We're going to need a lot of leaves on that tree. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I've got 2 trees that need a lot of leaves so we can stay longevity-ized around here. If anybody cares about longevity, let's make sure we get those leaves back on both of my ash trees, please. Okay, and if that's not enough, who around here has some Germanic ancestry? I know I do. I'm not just Celtic, I'm part German too. Excuse me. Okay, so we have some part Germanic people around here. Have we heard of runes? This is a little cheat sheet I got with one of my runes back in the day. There's a lot of runes, according to this sheet and according to another resource I'm going to share with you, that say the ash tree is quite important to the Germans as well. So the runes we see, the runes being the ancient Germanic alphabet. Okay, the runes that I'm seeing on this particular cheat sheet, this particular one-page sheet that are supposed to be associated with ash are, and excuse me while I take a look with my eyeballs. Let's see. Ansus, which is the rune, it looks like an F with the 2. It looks a little bit like an F, but there's some, it's not exactly like an F. There's 2 that look like an F, and the 2 parts that wing out from the vertical line either point up or point down. The Ansus points down. So it's not Fehu, it's Ansus. Ansus is symbol of the mouth, which maybe that helps that I'm talking to you. Maybe I was compelled to do that through the ash tree, needing to speak. Signals, inspiration, speech, voice of the goddess. Thank you so much. True vision and synthesis. Okay, now, ash. There was another one. Oh, Wonjo. This is a nice rune. Ansus is supposed to be a good rune to work with if you're trying to pass a test or to express yourself verbally in a way that's effective. Okay, so Wonjo is another one. This one looks like a pea, kind of a pointy pea. And it's a really nice rune. It's like that rune for happily ever after. If you get married, you want that Wonjo rune right there. So you not only have a great marriage, you have a great rest of your life. It's like a really, really super duper longevity happiness rune. It's really good. Who knew the P was that? The letter P was that important. Okay, so Wonjo. Wonjo is also associated with the ash and with the emotion of joy. Joy of life, harmony, fellowship, prosperity, and secret knowledge. And I'm looking for the mountain ash. I'm not sure what's the difference between an ash and a mountain ash. But anyway, mountain ash is Nauthies, need, necessity. It's a rune that expresses that you have needs that are not being fulfilled and advises you, perhaps you should look into maybe fulfilling some of those needs for yourself. And that one is associated with the mountain ash. That is constraint, need, resistance, leads to strength, self-initiated change. So I would think the Nauthies rune might apply to how those ash trees are feeling now that they got those dead branches cut off. Yeah, a lot of that dead wood is off, but they need to grow back. They need to grow back some leaves and stuff. So I think that's very, very appropriate. We'll send some blessings for Wonjo and understand the Nauthies for the ash trees right now, if we like. And let's keep those runes right side up, please. Very important. Any more ash here? One more. Ewas. And this is the one that looks like the letter M. It's the symbol of the horse and the ash tree. It symbolizes teamwork, loyalty, good relations within a neighborhood, working towards similar goals, even maybe not necessarily the same way or not necessarily in the same style, but same goals, like to try and keep the neighborhood safe, keep people getting along and that kind of thing. So that's really good. Ash seems like it's a really good luck tree. Really good luck tree. If you've got one in your neighborhood, maybe you want to try and keep it as well as you can. That ash tree is for loyalty, movement, teamwork, trust, harmony, fertility of ideas. Let's see, any more ash? Okay, that's it. But I think that's quite a bit. And just to back up the runes, one of, not necessarily everybody's favorite, but one of my favorites for quick, simple, easy to understand, quite creative, and actually good with the Germanic is a lady named Silver Ravenwolf. This is the cover of her classic rune deck. I would love to say I have the deck, but it's like this t-shirt said, somebody went to Vegas and I got this t-shirt. Well, I don't have the deck, but I've got the book. And it's a nice, nice book. I'm going to look just in the appendix here right now for correspondences for the ash tree and see all the different resources for this ancient stuff don't necessarily agree because people have their own interpretations. So these might be a little bit different than my cheat sheet, but it's okay. Ash, Asa, and that's the same as Ansus. Again, but not necessarily the same, but that's the F with the two verticals that are point down. So she's in agreement that the ash, she also includes the hazel as being a tree. She includes correspondences of the color dark blue and the raven. And we have wonderful, wonderful tons of ravens around here. So I love that the ash tree and the ravens do get along because they do. In real life, they do. It's not just a myth. We see ravens in the ash trees when they're bushy. And the ravens would really like to have some of those boughs grow back, I'm sure, because I don't think they want to hang around on a stumpy. I've seen a raven fly from right to left through my window as I'm looking out. I have windows on the other side of my laptop. And just as I mentioned raven, one actually flew by. And when they travel from right to left, supposedly it's something negative, left to right, especially something positive. So they're traveling from right to left as I speak to you, which is supposed to mean that, yeah, they kind of don't like that all that stuff was chopped off. Well, we kind of could suffer more from a falling limb, I think, than a raven. So we appreciate the ravens. We want the limbs to grow back, but we have to keep ourselves safe too, right? We all live in this together, in this world together. It also symbolizes the adder, which we've talked about snakes before with the Curanderismo, have we not? So we have the runes, which are Norse, Germanic, and the Mexican American Curanderismo actually sharing the same traditions once again. So here we see a cooperation in at least that part of the belief system regarding the ash between the Mexican American and the Nordic or the Germanic. So that's kind of fun. The treasures, whatever the treasures are, is the ashwood spear, which we've talked about before. The spear is made of ash, which we talked about with the Irish, and the mead horn. So I guess mead horns Could they be made of ash wood? I don't know. And in fact, it makes me want to try mead. Mead is that honey wine that's made. I have never had mead. I'm told that it is not sweet. It doesn't taste that good, but I'd like to try some just to see. So see if I can find some mead in a local store at some point. Ash, ash, ash. Any more ash? Whew. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay. Okay. Oh, these are the same. Oh, okay, these are the same four responses going all the way across one page. So let's see. Let's find some more. Okay, the divinities for the ash tree are Odin, which is really nice. He is the inventor of the runes. Hugin and Munin, which are his ravens. One is thought and one is memory. So how nice that our ash trees are Odin, Hugin, and Munin, and his pet ravens. Really, really nice. I had thought that it was always the yew tree, but we're seeing it here as being the ash tree. Super nice. The magical applications for the ash are wisdom, eloquence, and inspiration. How nice. And the rune whites, I don't know what most of these are, so I'm just going to read these off to you, are Wildamin, Wood Woses, Wild Women, and Raven Spirits. So lots of ravens and ash going together. And I just love the ravens here in the desert. They're absolutely cool birds. They're very beautiful in flight. Very talkative and friendly. It's not like they're going to get on your hand and chat with you, but they'll perch up in a tree and make a lot of noise. And they get along well in the neighborhood. People, ravens, all that, and trees. So, yeah. So I'm going to check for some more ash here. More ash correspondences. Not seeing them here. Oh, another one. Manas. This one's a little different. Okay, so we had Ewaz and the other, which is the M. Manas is the M, which continues those two, what are they called, horizontal lines, so that they actually form a cross. So it's like an M with those extended. So it's like an M with an X at the top of it. Manas. Anyway, if you know your runes, you know which one Manas is. So she said it's not Ewaz, it's Manas. Little disagreement, but they're similar looking runes. She has the ash and the elm under Manas. The colors for this are white, red, and green, colors of the Mexican flag. Green is, of course, a color for Celtic, very much associated with Ireland as being the Emerald Isle. I don't know what the colors are for the Germans. Sorry, I don't have a whole lot of German ethnicity, just a little bit. The totems are human and ram. Okay, and we're people, so we're one of the ash totems. How nice is that? The treasures are the horn, the axe, and the plow. The divinities are Manus, Ask, and Embla. I don't know who those are. Just sharing that with you. The magical applications are that it's the thought rune, it's about intelligence, career cunning, which I could use some of that because I need to get my career moving again. Arbitration, which is agreements and stuff like that, so that's good. And the rune whites are ancestral souls, which is very nice for us here. We have a lot of elders in the community, and every once in a while it's a very sad thing, but we'll see an ambulance down the street, somebody will pass on, and so we do have ancestral souls that we need to think about. And if the ash is somehow easing the transition or helping us here on this side of the veil in the land of the living, then the ash tree is again extremely, extremely important for us to kind of honor and respect as being trees that were very wise for somebody to have planted as street trees some times ago. Anyway, that's that one. And that was for Manus. And, oh, that's it. Okay. So there's more that we could read in all of these books. I've gone for over a half an hour on this video. And I'm not making money on this, so that all these things were shared, just short passages from different books for information purposes only. And the point is just to say that, you know what, yeah, we trimmed our trees, and yeah, that's cool, it looks really better now, and you have to maintain your trees, blah, 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 blah. But you know what, let's talk a little bit about the ash tree and how it's not just Mexican laborers who know and care about the trees, it's us too. So let's start, okay? Thanks. Let's see some of these leaves and branches coming back out. And realize that our desert ravens are part of our community just as we are. And thank you all for listening. Blessings.